We have been keeping a massive secret. We are leaving the United States, and we are selling our house, our cars, and the majority of our possessions, packing our lives into suitcases, and taking the biggest leap of faith that we have ever taken.
People have guessed Florida, Costa Rica, maybe Mexico.
And some people might have guessed Britain already because of my Harry Potter scar, but no.
But almost no one guessed this. All right, Samuel, tell the world, where are the Lewises moving?
We're moving to El Salvador! Wait!
Okay, we know what you're thinking. We've heard all the questions already. Like, have you ever been there? No, we haven't.
Do you know Spanish? No. And let me say it for you again in Spanish. No.
Is it just a vacation? Nope. This is a move.
Did you just find some rando on the internet that told you needed to move to El Salvador? No. We did our research before we decided to move our family to another country.
Why not just move somewhere else in the United States? Well, we'll get to that in a second. But long story short, the U.S. just doesn't have what we need right now.
I mean, is it even safe? El Salvador, just a few years ago, was one of the most dangerous places that you would hear about on the news, right? But now, thanks to the incredible work of President Bukele, the nation is changing rapidly and has already changed so much. El Salvador is one of the safest places to live. And we're emphasizing faith over fear.
So getting back to the big question of why El Salvador, it comes down to two main pillars. The first is our health and the environment. Now, this first pillar has a few different points, and we'll cover those really quickly.
So there's this thing called the Ring of Fire, which is basically a giant ring of volcanoes around the Pacific Ocean, and El Salvador is in that Ring of Fire. And volcanoes are also really good for the magnetism, and so that's one of the points why we're moving.
So why not go with a U.S. volcano like Mount St. Helens? Well, it's not just about the volcanoes, it's a combination of several factors, one of which is the EMF factor. We're looking for a digital detox environment. And to have that, we need things that are minimal cell coverage, minimal Bluetooth, minimal Wi-Fi, things like that. And the U.S. is not conducive to that environment at all because it's completely covered with all of those things.
There's also the matter of circadian biology. So if you're not familiar with that, one of the big issues with circadian biology is light itself. Now, where we are now, light shifts about 4 to 5 hours between winter and summer. So here in the summer, it gets dark around 9:30-ish. And in the winter, it gets dark around 4:30 or 5 o'clock. And that is a huge swing for your body to have to deal with. Now, in order to heal, we need better stability. So moving closer to the equator is actually really beneficial. For example, the light between summer and winter only changes by about 30 minutes.
But honestly, we wouldn't move our family across the world just for a volcano. We are Christians, and we believe God is living, active, and still speaks today. And he's been speaking pretty loudly.
Now, where I work currently, we have devotional speakers come in, and if you're not familiar with what a devotion is, it's basically where you have a small sermon in the middle of the week, usually. And one of those speakers happened to be John O'Leary, and his message that week when he came to speak to us was about saying yes when God gives you an opportunity.
So we as a family attend one church together, and then I sing at another church. So I go to 2 church services every Sunday. And the very next Sunday, after Chase heard that devotional talk about saying yes when God gives you an opportunity, they both brought up the scripture in 2 Kings chapter 5, where Naaman is being healed by dipping in the water in another country. He's leaving his comfort zone and being healed.
So the next week, when the next devotional speaker came to talk, he said, when God asks you to do something, say yes.
The week after that, the speaker mentioned John 5, verse 1. And they said, do you want to be comfortable or do you want to be healed?
Now the next week, the devotional speaker talked about how we needed to wake up as a church. And even just before that, in fact, the Saturday before that, we had a consultation with Dr. Cruz, and he actually mentioned that our family is waking up from all the centralized thinking that we have been ingrained in for our entire lives, as well as all the centralized medicine that we've been a part of for our entire lives and that we followed so closely.
And the next week, the devotional speaker talks about tell your story. So we started sharing our story on the internet.
Then another devotional speaker at Chase's work was talking about the season that you're in, and he shared an analogy of seasoning a pan. Now, if you're from the South like us, then you're going to know what it means to season a cast iron skillet. And if you're not, basically the process is you rub it with oil, you have to stick it in an oven, it has to be really hot, and the seasoning gets baked in. Seasoning a pan requires substance and heat. It creates a non-stick surface, and it adds flavor. We are entering a season of heat and substance to become who God has designed us to be.
Then, this past Friday, I was invited to a new Bible study where we were reading Genesis chapter 45, where Joseph was sent ahead to Egypt to prepare the way for others so that he could save the lives of so many people. Now, we don't know what that means for us just yet, but we think that's a pretty cool indicator for what God has planned. So, we are trading comfort for healing. We are saying yes.
We know this seems crazy, and we know you have a million more questions. So drop your questions in the comments below. We'll do videos upcoming where we address them somehow. A Q&A, short videos, we'll figure that out later. But we want to know what you're curious about or why you think we're crazy. So if you're not already, make sure that you're subscribed so you don't miss any of the updates on our adventure.
So this is where the adventure begins.